It's been around 2 months since my last upload. During that time, I haven't stopped playing Counter-Strike. In fact, I've been making some pretty major changes behind the scenes. New monitor, new keyboard, new mouse, and even a completely different approach to audio. So before I jump back into the Road to FACEIT series, I thought I'd show you what's changed and why. If you've been following the channel for a while, you'll know that one of my goals has always been consistency. Not just consistency in aim and decision making, but consistency in the environment I'm playing in. One of my other passions is sim racing, and it's really important to be able to just jump in every single time and put in consistent laps. Now, this is massively helped by the equipment and the seating position, and I think that translates to Counter-Strike as well. So over the last couple of months, I've upgraded several parts of my setup, not because I think gear magically makes you better, but because I wanted to build something I could comfortably use for years. So let's start with probably the biggest upgrade. The biggest change by far has been my monitor. I came from a 144Hz MSI panel, which was pretty good to be honest, but now I've moved to a BenQ ZOWIE XL2546X Plus, which doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. If you've watched professional CS over the years, chances are you've seen one of these or one of the later models on stage. This monitor is built specifically with competitive FPS in mind. The feature everyone likes to talk about is DIAC, and honestly, after using it for a while, I understand why. The first thing I noticed wasn't necessarily that I played better, it was that tracking targets felt clearer. Fast movements felt much easier to follow. And one anecdotal thing that I've noticed is that when running for aim routines in Kovacs, it seems much easier to follow moving targets. The game simply feels cleaner during those hectic moments. Now, let's be honest, is a monitor going to suddenly make you rank up or get FACEIT 10? Absolutely not. But it can make good habits easier to execute consistently. And if it's a nicer thing to look at, it's definitely going to be something that keeps you coming back for more. Now keep in mind, because it's built for purpose rather than the way it looks, it has got a big thick bezel around it, which I'm definitely not used to. But it doesn't really matter when you're just trying to play a game and be immersed in the action. The next upgrade was my keyboard. So I'd been using a Logitech one, which I thought was pretty good to be honest, but the meta is definitely the Hall effect stuff. So I went for an Attack Shark X68 Pro HE. I wanted to have wireless, so I've got the flexibility for moving it around my desk if I want to, but most of the time it's just plugged in. This is my first proper Hall effect keyboard, and honestly it did take a little bit of getting used to. Because the keys reset almost instantly, the movement feels incredibly responsive. Counter strafing is so much easier and cleaner. Direction changes feel much more immediate. And in the beginning I found it a little bit too sensitive. I made mistakes where I wouldn't normally because I wasn't used to how quickly the keyboard responded. But once I adjusted everything and tuned it to my liking, I can definitely see why so many competitive players are moving towards Hall effect. And the Attack Shark for the money is definitely a bargain. One of the upgrades that everyone talks about is the mouse. It's because it's the thing that you're touching and using the most often, it's the thing that you rely on in gunfights. Now I went for the Logitech Superlight 2, and everyone knows that this is a pretty decent mouse. It's used the world over and I can see why. Now I went for the DeX variant, which is because I prefer a mouse that's kind of moulded to my hand as opposed to one that's just in a straight line design. What surprised me about it wasn't the sensor or the weight, it's that it really did just disappear into your hand. It doesn't feel like there's any work to get a nice grip on it at all. And for me, that's exactly what I wanted. I also added some aftermarket skates. The reason I did that is because I'd been told that the standard ones don't wear very well and they're not that great quality. It's easy to replace them and they're pretty cheap as well, so I went for a set of the core pads. The combination of the mouse and skates definitely made for a much smoother experience, much more predictable, and when you're trying to build consistency, predictability is definitely a good thing. On top of that, I'm also experimenting with a couple of different mouse pads. So my daily is a SteelSeries QCK Heavy, but I'm finding that the edges are a little bit too thick and it's a little bit uncomfortable after some time. So I'm also testing one from Attack Shark, but I'll perhaps do a video on that to update you on how that goes. So the change that surprised me most was the audio. I've always used a traditional gaming headset. I had a SteelSeries Arctis and it was great. But that wasn't until I tried IEMs. IEMs are used by all the pros now, and I can see exactly why that is. The set that I went for were the Moondrop Chu IIs. They're really cheap and they're great quality. When I first got them, I wasn't sure what to expect. Gaming headsets have kind of been my default for a long time, but after spending time with these, I don't really miss the headset experience. They're lightweight, comfortable, easy to wear for long sessions, and importantly, I haven't felt like I've lost any ability to identify footsteps or positions in CS2. If anything, they've made the longer sessions more comfortable. There's none of the gamer post-processing going on with the audio that ends up sounding really muddy. It's just the pure audio. Paired with a USB adapter to get the jack out of the way, it's been absolutely my top upgrade. And I would encourage anyone who's thinking about it to just do it. They're so cheap, they're so effective, and I definitely wouldn't go back. Looking back, none of these upgrades have magically transformed my gameplay. I'm still making mistakes, I'm still learning, and I still have plenty of weaknesses to work on. But what these changes have done is remove friction. Everything feels that little bit more comfortable, more predictable, more consistent. And that allows me to focus on what actually matters, improving at Counter-Strike. The setup is finally in a place I'm happy with, which means I can stop obsessing over gear and get back to focusing on the game itself. Sure, I'm probably going to try some other bits and pieces out and experiment, just for fun. The road to FACEIT series is returning soon, and I'm excited to see how far I can push things from here. If you've upgraded anything recently, let me know what made the biggest difference for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.